A warm welcome to this session on understanding the exercise referral concept. My name is Dr. Grant Ralston, and I have developed a series of sessions that help to aid exercise professionals better understand how to work with clients who have one or more medical conditions. By the end of this session, there are several key objectives that I hope helps increase your knowledge. These include understanding the role and function of the exercise referral scheme in the UK. Also, you will be able to define what exercise, physical activity, sport, fitness, and health is. Lastly, it is hoped that you will have developed a greater appreciation towards the role that physical activity plays in relation to health-promoting interventions. Exercise referral is a recognized method of encouraging sedentary and inactive people to engage in physical activity. It serves as a means of improving long-term physical and mental health and well-being. The Department of Health, in 2001, commissioned the development of the National Quality Assurance Framework for Exercise Referral Schemes. This distinctive framework provided a strategic approach to the conception of exercise referral and has shaped the foundation of numerous exercise referral schemes presently operating throughout the UK. In 2011, the Chief Medical Officer's publication entitled Start Active, Stay Active provided recommendations on the quantity of physical activity required to meet the needs of the UK population across their life to achieve universal health benefits. This report supersedes the At Least 5 a Week paper that was published in 2002 and Choosing Health in 2004 that promoted programs aimed at reducing sedentary behavior, through active living programs that incorporate muscular strength and flexibility components of wellness. Moreover, there are various local area agreements between the practice-based commissioning groups and GPs that map to the original Quality Outcomes Framework, which specifically identified obesity, reduced blood glucose tolerance and hypertension as the main areas of interest for the implementation of exercise intervention schemes. Being part of an exercise referral scheme allows the qualified fitness professional to play a fundamentally vital role in the promotion of regular physical activity to individuals with a need to develop their health and well-being. These people range from a sedentary status to those who have developed signs and symptoms of chronic disease. Consequently, exercise referral schemes should be regarded as a means of reducing inactivity-related conditions, such as coronary heart disease, and improving health-related conditions, including musculoskeletal disorders, obesity, diabetes mellitus, and more. A conventional view of exercise is one of vigorous, sustained bouts, performed to achieve high levels of physical fitness. The emphasis is generally focused on the development of cardiovascular and muscular fitness, and popular lay press often market and advertise this viewpoint to reflect the related images of youth, desirability, athleticism, and muscularity. Unfortunately, people associate exercise with sport. Given this view, it is important to note that individuals who believe that they are not good at sport frequently report little desire in pursuing an active lifestyle. Exercise is often viewed by some as the domain of the young, the fit, and the well-coordinated. Contemporary exercise is often linked with sports science, and high-tech equipment is now regularly available to health and fitness club members and not just the elite sportsperson. This situation therefore may not positively influence the engagement in some people, as it could be perceived as threatening, or not for me. If physical activity and exercise are to be implemented as an effective strategy in the improvement of health, then it is important that the prevalent perception of exercise needs to undergo a fundamental transformation. A plan needs to be developed which takes into consideration that a large majority of individuals are not positively inclined towards engaging in fitness training. One key strategy to attain this goal is to develop the individual's knowledge towards the benefits of exercise that can be accrued through a range of physical activities, including walking to work, walking the dog, gardening, taking the stairs instead of the lift, and housework. It is also important that exercise is disconnected with pain, discomfort, sweat, breathlessness, sporting ability, financial expense, disruption to the day, and is more closely aligned with enjoyment, well-being, and accessibility. Not all functional pursuits can achieve this end, therefore, careful selection of various exercise modalities is required. A healthy program of suitable exercise will therefore be client-centered, for several reasons. Firstly, the quantity and mode of exercise must be appropriate to stimulate the necessary physiological and biochemical adaptations, and secondly, the client must be able to adhere to the program over the long term. While many individuals prefer the structured nature of exercise, others often dislike the thought of engaging in exercise. For these individuals, who may however want to improve their appearance as well as their health, the outlook is positive. It is important to remember that only our brain distinguishes where and how you are implementing your body. The body itself only knows that it is being worked above resting metabolic rates. The important take-home point is that redirecting an individual's perception of exercise through the notion of physical activity can be the initial stage in supporting the individual into engaging in regular physical activity or exercise. This lifestyle-based approach of physical activity has several benefits, as it includes activities that offer limited distress, minimal perspiration, no need for distinctive clothing, no need to shower afterwards, and no booking of facilities. For example, the client needs to consider walking the dog, walking to work, playing with their children in the play park, avoiding lifts and escalators, and gardening as means of increasing energy expenditure. That said, there are still concerns with prescribing only lifestyle-based physical activity, as it is challenging to quantify whether the client will do more of this mode of physical activity and whether they will perform them safely. For instance, the client may inadvertently cause musculoskeletal damage whilst digging in the garden or overexert their physical capacity levels while cycling to work. Consequently, there is a fundamental requirement to provide a more controlled exercise framework that requires regulation. This is to aid the client in developing an exercise routine and learning the necessary skills to participate safely and at the appropriate physical intensity level. An appropriate qualified Level 3 exercise referral specialist could aid in the education of the referred client. This would focus on developing their understanding of healthy living, including aspects of healthy eating via the use of the government's Eat Well guide. Nevertheless, caution must be taken to ensure that such education does not compromise or conflict with any guidance given to the client by their referring medical or related health professional or infringes the code of ethical conduct for exercise professionals. Furthermore, clients with specific medical conditions are prone to follow a bespoke eating plan, as a means of acquiring and maintaining control of the condition before being referred for exercise. Consequently, well-defined distinctions must be drawn between the role of the specialist instructor in an exercise referral scheme and the provision for guiding the client about healthy eating. Essentially, all clients must eat healthily, regardless of their age, background, medical or health status. The specialist instructor should, therefore, evaluate the client's knowledge of fundamental nutrition and provide only general advice, where appropriate. Importantly, the instructor must not offer guidance or advice to clients with multifaceted medical conditions, as these conditions have a direct effect on the way the client should eat from day to day, for example, diabetes mellitus, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and rheumatoid arthritis. Additionally, the instructor should seek clarification from the referring medical professional as to the guidance given to the client before they were referred for exercise. This provides a foundation from which the instructor can provide positive reinforcement. As the specialist referral instructor develops their skill sets, there may be a need to obtain further qualifications in nutrition, as this would develop, significantly, the conceivable role in educating the client with regards to healthy eating. However, the instructor should clarify the limits of their knowledge provided by their qualifications. For example, a weekend course does not provide adequate knowledge to prescribe nutritional advice or guidance. Importantly, with regards to this issue, the titles dietitian in the UK and dietitian in the USA are safeguarded by law, and anyone using these titles without registration is liable to prosecution and may be fined. Furthermore, the title nutritionist has no legal standing, and no educational requirements are necessary for an individual to be termed a nutritionist. However, the Nutrition Society is attempting to police the field of nutrition and protect the award. It is generally acknowledged that regular, appropriate physical activity is beneficial to health in several ways, and as a result, there is an increasing public health interest in engaging in physical activity as a means of improving the population's health. The available evidence is generally generated from epidemiological research. These are studies that evaluate large groups of subjects, usually many thousands, over a defined time point, and during this time each subject's health is assessed and documented. Moreover, there are several other factors, which may impact the outcomes of these studies. For example, after a specific time point, it is possible to assess factors relating to health outcomes. This type of research provides important evidence regarding whether each factor is correlated to the onset of a specific disease, and it also provides data that displays the strength or power of these relationships. Critically, this mode of research provides limited information about how various factors affect physical health. In simple terms, it tells us nothing about which physiological or biochemical factors that may have been modified by physical activity to produce an improvement in the population's health status. To determine which physiological, biochemical, and psychosocial processes are affected by physical activity requires a different study design, such as the use of randomized controlled trials. Although somewhat restricted, the body of evidence suggests that regular sustained physical activity alters blood fats, i.e., the lipoprotein profile, blood pressure, several hormones, glucose tolerance, and some blood clotting factors, as well as mood and anxiety levels. Each of these changes appears to be positively correlated with a more positive physically active lifestyle. In other words, from what research has suggested regarding physiology, biochemistry, and psychosocial models, the modification should be beneficial to the UK's population health. Subsequently, while data is limited with regards to the specific mechanisms, there is quantifiable evidence from population studies to suggest that engaging in a functional dose of regular physical activity yields significant benefits to our health. Presently, there is a large body of data available on the therapeutic effects of regular physical activity and cardiovascular disease. In the UK, cardiovascular disease is the primary cause of death and accounts for 420 deaths per day. According to 2018 data obtained from the British Heart Foundation, an estimated 7 million people are living with cardiovascular disease. Importantly, there is an inverse correlation between levels of physical activity and the incidence rates of cardiovascular disease. In other words, the higher the levels of physical activity, the lower the rates of cardiovascular disease, specifically in males. This is supported by evidence pulled from over 40 well-controlled studies, and when combined, the data suggests that the risk of death from a heart attack is almost doubled in physically inactive individuals, compared to people that are more physically active. Regular physical activity may protect against cardiovascular disease by reducing blood pressure and body weight, positively alternating blood lipid levels by raising levels of high-density lipoproteins, and indirectly through favorable effects on other behaviors, for example, the cessation of cigarette smoking. In addition to reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease, regular physical activity can have several other health benefits. For example, weight-bearing activity can positively stress the bone tissue, resulting in favorable adaptations that makes them denser and stronger. This is important, especially for females, in reducing the risks of osteoporosis in later life. Furthermore, aspects of psychological well-being are also improved by moderate-intensity physical activity. Physical activity is also an essential component of weight loss programs and is significant in maintaining optimal weight. Additionally, the risk of having a stroke is reduced, and individuals with diabetes mellitus can have developed glucose tolerance and lower insulin resistance. There are other physiological conditions, including asthma, where the condition is not directly improved by exercise, but where it is important to take exercise so that the other benefits of exercise are acquired. There are several other health benefits of being physically active, but this has been restricted within this discussion to just the main factors. A final consideration is that of the term prescription, which can be misleading if it is thought of as one universal solution to a problem. For example, a GP can prescribe medication established on scientific knowledge of the effects of that medicine. However, they are likely to have a range of medicines that might be as effective depending on the client. The selected treatment may differ depending on the client's age, sex, medical history, personality, level of education, and even likes and dislikes. Importantly, physical activity is similar, and an exercise professional must consider a wide range of possibilities depending on the same set of factors. A safe, appropriate, and effective exercise program must be established based on academic evidence on exercise health relationships and the psychosocial factors that determine long-term adherence to the exercise intervention program. Prescribing an exercise program without this required knowledge or adequate evaluation of the client is unprofessional and can be extremely dangerous. For example, exercise-induced risks should be viewed as the risk of the client having a condition-related event during physical activity or exercise, for example, an asthma attack, hypoglycemia, or an angina attack, or the risk of musculoskeletal damage, acute vascular damage, lowered immune system response, heat exhaustion, dehydration, and overtraining. As discussed in the previous presentation, a major concern to the health of our nation is that a vast majority of people perform little or no exercise regularly, nor are physically active enough to gain significant health benefits. It is those individuals that participate in very low levels of physical activity that have the greatest significant risk to their health. Where there is no daily physical exertion as part of work, travel, home, or leisure, then the higher the risk of disease, especially coronary heart disease, obesity, and type 2 diabetes mellitus. Importantly, for our body's own health, we as individuals need to actively seek opportunities to perform physical work. In this way, our bodies will continue to be healthier and for longer. People who are presently sedentary should avoid performing activities suddenly. This is because unintentional pain or physical fatigue they will experience during physical activity can be a powerful demotivator. Importantly, it will not be enjoyable for the client, and they may associate physical activity with negative cognition. Lastly, the client may probably experience muscular soreness and fatigue the next day. A more positive approach may be to initially exercise at a level that places the body in a lower level of stress so that it does not have the same adaptational processes. For individuals who are very sedentary, performing activities such as running may be considered beyond their existing capabilities, and this may remain so for a period. It would be more beneficial if the activities were structured in a way that was progressive for the client. For example, if the client initially performed walking, and then brisk walking uphill, and then eventually running over time, the biological adaptational process would be gradual. Unfortunately, many individuals think that running is at the bottom end of the aerobic exercise spectrum, but it isn't. It is near the top in terms of physiological demand and calorific expenditure. It is worth emphasizing that in terms of physical and mental wellness, the volume of exercise supersedes the intensity and duration of each individual session. We can accrue physical activity throughout the day, even if an individual has an active work schedule. A suitable way of thinking about this is by adopting the terminology of active living, rather than training. Active living depicts the amount and type of exercise that we have inherently evolved to do. Through evolution, we are a species that is of a hunter-gatherer, and we innately perform large volumes of ambulatory movement, sporadic running, and transporting and gathering food. However, returning to this practice is not conceivable, and perhaps not desirable, but we all need to develop our own individual means of structuring physical work into our mostly sedentary lives. There are lifestyle alterations we can make, for instance, selecting an active option when given a choice, looking to utilize energy, rather than conserve energy, walking or cycling to places, selecting a lengthier way rather than considering a shortcut, or making a diversion to go over a hill. All these suggestions will burn calories, which is the most important thing to consider when we want to become physically healthier through exercise. An added consideration is that the least active members of our society have, in theory, the most to gain from increasing their physical activity levels. Typically, these individuals do not frequent health and fitness clubs and are reluctant to go to these facilities. For many individuals, exercise is not even on their personal agenda. The psychological, practical, financial, and physiological barriers to exercise are often significant, and to help these individuals overcome these barriers demands a completely different set of skills on the part of the exercise professional. The conventional purpose of aerobic exercise prescription is to improve our cardiovascular fitness. To achieve this, health and fitness organizations have evolved positional standpoints that recommended that we need to perform between 20 to 60 minutes of exercise per session, using large muscle groups, at an intensity value of 60 to 90% of our speculative maximum heart rate, or 50 to 80% of maximal aerobic power at a frequency of between 3 to 5 days per week. However, we should consider the term cardiovascular fitness is often used synonymously with cardiovascular health, and it is therefore not surprising that exercise guidelines designed to promote high levels of cardiovascular fitness are frequently used when prescribing exercise for cardiovascular health. Nevertheless, we know from various population studies that participation in regular, moderate intensity activities provide significant cardiovascular health benefits, often referred to as being cardioprotective. Given this evidence, it is logical to suggest that for many individuals, a therapeutic level of physical activity is approximately 30 minutes of brisk walking on most days of the week. This can be one continued bout, or 2 to 3 bouts of shorter duration, with the total duration progressing towards at least 30 minutes. The physical activity doesn't have to be sport or formal exercise sessions, although some individuals do prefer this type of structured activity. For other people, it can be walking or cycling to work or the shops, playing with their children or grandchildren, manual work in the garden or around the house, or some other active leisure pursuits. Other lifestyle modifications can also be made, which all help to accumulate our daily physical activity duration. For example, parking the car further from the office or shops and walking the rest, walking to the shops, or taking stairs instead of lifts and escalators. There are countless opportunities to change the focus of our thinking. Unfortunately, some individuals seek opportunities to conserve energy rather than expire it. When an exercise professional encounters a novice exerciser, a physical activity program should be founded on what the client thinks is achievable, comfortable, and importantly enjoyable. Of course, there are additional considerations including age, sex, goals of the individual, but usually high-intensity activities should not be considered at this phase. It is important to consider that by increasing the intensity of exercise for novice participants also increases the potential of injury.